something magical about a night game in Morgantown. And tonight, Duquesne comes calling to Morgantown. And hey, I wish I was there, but that's okay. I'm not there tonight. I'm here with you guys. Great. It's great to be here with you. I'm Joey Foster. In the back room, I have someone that's going to come in with me. And we're going to talk a little bit of college football with you guys. We'll talk about some scores today. We'll talk about the upcoming game between West Virginia and Duquesne. And we'll talk about the West Virginia schedule in general. So appreciate you guys joining us here. I'm going to bring him in right now, Mr. NickDTV. What's going on, Nick?
What's up? What's up? Ready? Excited to watch some football. See what we have in store.
You know? Absolutely, me too, man. Me too. Before we get started, I'm gonna recap some games from today. So, some finals that have come about from the day, and also scores that are going on right now. So, Penn State was all over Delaware today, 63-7 final score. Right now, with 7 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, Notre Dame is up 38-17 on NC State. NC State kept that game really close for a long time. Notre Dame's kind of blown it open a little bit right now. Utah and Baylor final. Utah 20, Baylor 13. That game was a lot closer than I thought it would be. I really figured Utah would run away with that game. Troy and Kansas State. Kansas State was all over Troy today, 42-13 for a final. Also, final now is Colorado 36, Nebraska 14. Nebraska, those same problems as always. It just looks like the same team it's been for the last couple of years right now. I think they've got the coach. I think they've got the coach of the future, but it takes him a year. I remember his first year at Baylor just wasn't that great. So, give him some time. He might get Nebraska going again. Meanwhile, Deion Sanders continues to roll 36-14. Also, final today, Ohio State all over Youngstown State 35-17. And final, Georgia 45, Ball State 3. And fourth quarter, with 12 minutes to go, Clemson 52, Charleston Southern 17. And at halftime, Tulane 17, Mississippi, or Ole Miss, Mississippi 10. And I have Tulane pulling the upset there. Also at halftime, Michigan 21, UNLV nothing. And in the second quarter, Texas A&M 17, Miami 14. So we got some good games going right now. Texas A&M Florida games, or Miami Florida game is a pretty good game. And the Mississippi and Tulane game is also a good game. So what game are you watching right now, Nick?
So I got the Iowa State game. Iowa's kind of looks like they're starting to pull away from them. It's been a defensive battle, but likelihood of the situation there. I was watching the Clemson Charleston Southern game, and Charleston Southern gave them all they could handle in the first half, but now it's kind of blowout. So
yeah, it's funny. These teams, they come in, and they're fired up. I don't blame them. I mean, these guys are excited to be playing, a Power 5 football program and stuff. They come in really excited. They'll keep the game close the first quarter, sometimes the first half even, and then the depth wears them down, and bigger teams start wearing them out. So.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about West Virginia and Duquesne today. Well, let me ask you this. I feel like every single week that Neil Brown coaches, his job's on the line. And I feel that way today. If he loses the game, that's it. I think Neil Brown's fired tonight.
Oh, no. They'll, like Pat McAfee said, they should just take his visor off right then and there, on the field, because that's just unacceptable.
I agree.
Now, I think that's going to happen. I really don't. It would be. I couldn't imagine that happening. Even with the roster that we have and the lackluster performances that we've had, I just, I can't see it.
So, do you think Duquesne can bring anything in the first half to hold with West Virginia, or do you think it's going to be a blowout from the start?
It's tough to say because, as far as I know, Duquesne, they didn't play well last year. They had a really troubled season, but this year, I believe that, they seem to – people are excited about them, at least the Duquesne fans, the little bit of them that there are, But I don't know. I think that for the most part we'll pretty much blow them out, and I really don't see it being close at all.
Well, let's remember this Duquesne team is coached by a head coach that's been there for 19 years, and done a really good job. They have 5 conference championships, maybe 6. They're a pretty good team in their division. Not Power 5 division, obviously, but they're a pretty good team in their division. So, about reminds me a lot. A few years back, we had James Madison come to town back 2019. That was game 1 for Neil Brown, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah, I was actually going to bring that exact scenario up. I think the final score was like 21-14, if I'm not mistaken.
It wasn't much. It was a close game.
And actually, we had a couple of big special teams play that really took us above and beyond, and we're able to kind of pull that win off. That was a weird game overall.
Yeah, it was. But now James Madison, I'm not confusing them with Duquesne. James Madison's a much better program than Duquesne is, and play a lot tougher schedule and things. But at the same time, just saying, Duquesne can give you some fits. At times, they are a good football team. They do have some talent, not nothing talented, not near the talent of West Virginia, obviously, but they do have some talent. Hey, let me give you a question. Since today's Duquesne, just Duquesne, and we're expecting to win. Let's do a rundown real quick. Let's take a look at some future games, all right? Because we're all excited. I mean, and hopefully the team today is not looking ahead to next week, because right now, honestly, that's what I'm looking ahead to. I'm looking ahead to Pitt. I admit it. I'm looking ahead to the Pitt backyard brawl game. We got to get things going there. It's time to solidify this football team and say, hey, country, we're here. We're a good football team, and we're going to get some. We're making the changes we need. What do you see in the Pittsburgh in the backyard brawl? Are you buying into this Pitt? All right, so a lot of people, and I've heard it today twice, and I heard it last week a couple of times. Pitt may be the dark horse in the ACC, and will probably beat West Virginia by a couple of touchdowns. That's what I'm hearing.
Well, first off, let me just say I really don't see our team being looking ahead towards Pittsburgh, because I think we're hungry to get a win after losing that badly to Penn State. So I think these guys are looking forward to the opportunity to be able to get a win and feel good, get that confidence back, that mojo flowing. Now, overall, like, I don't see Pittsburgh being, a dark horse at all in the ACC. I think got a lot of other teams that have been, looking good, like even a Duke. I know it was only 1 week, but I think that they could be possibly a dark horse. You got Florida State. They're not a dark horse. They're the favorite.
Yeah.
Clemson, although I really think that they're going downhill fast, I think they still have a chance. I think they still have a shot to maybe get in there. North Carolina, let's not forget about North Carolina. So, I really don't see this Pittsburgh team competing that well in the ACC. And I think that this team, West Virginia, for example, I think that we know how big of the game this is, not only for the state. On normal circumstances, this is a huge game, but you add the fact that we lost in heartbreaking fashion, in Pittsburgh, to a game that we thought we could have won. Our head coach, his job is on the line. And if we don't win this game, he's likely, doesn't have, much. He's on thin ice, if he's already fired. So, these guys know that this opportunity is a big deal. So I really think that, it would be a very close game.
So one thing I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to post the StreamYard link in the chat. We don't have very many in here, as expected, but we hope to get a few more in. We'd like to have you. We'd like to have you join us in the conversation here. If you want to come in with us, there's a StreamYard link. Also, I will tell you, This stream's going to end at 6 o'clock when kickoff. At 6 o'clock, his stream will end. But me and Nick are going to stay in the back room and of the StreamYard and talk and watch the college football game between Duquesne and West Virginia together. So you guys come on in and join us. What happened, Nick?
Oh, nothing. Miami just had a big run.
Oh.
I got excited there.
So, you talk about Clemson. Now, Clemson easily rolling over Charleston Southern today, 59-17. But now last year, Clemson didn't, or last week, Clemson didn't look so hot. Against Duke, they looked really bad. Clemson looked really bad. They've improved a lot in the week, but it is against Charleston Southern as well. So another thing we talked about out of the ACC, Miami. They're right now Texas A&M 17, Miami 14. So yeah, the ACC's pretty good conference this year. But I don't think Clemson can be included in that conversation myself.
Yeah, I didn't even mention Miami, but that's another team that we really don't know much about. So we'll see down the road. But yeah, Clemson, they are running away with this game, but let's not forget that it was 17-24 in the first half, and Clemson threw a pick six, and they've been just sloppy and just not a championship style discipline that you would see from these old Clemson teams. It's not even just the talent that's the issue, but also just the discipline and the focusedness that they just don't seem to have that going for them.
Yeah. So Duquesne coming in tonight. I don't even know if there's a line on this game. I haven't even looked to see if they ever put a line on this game, but I doubt it. So then after the backyard brawl, so let me ask you this: does West Virginia win or lose the backyard brawl?
I think it's going to be at home. College game day possibly could make a visit, especially if I think West Virginia will win, but especially if Pittsburgh is able to win too, then they might maybe be have a rank. They might be ranked and coming in there. So I think College game day will be there. Our guys will be fired up. It's going to be a huge night game in Morgantown, and really the first big night game, in Neil Brown's era. If I'm thinking back.
Yeah, it is. It might be the first big night game since LSU in 2011.
Yeah,
right. Honestly,
it's a different feeling when Pitt comes to town. It's just
right.
The atmosphere is just it's nothing. Yeah. It's nothing like it.
So and that's what I mean by last big night game. The last time we had an atmosphere like Pittsburgh's going to experience here next week was probably LSU in 2011.
Yeah.
We've had some big games at night and stuff, but nothing like this because this is the backyard brawl. Anybody in West Virginia is going to be there either tailgating and watching it outside the stadium and just hanging out, or in the stadium, or they will be watching from their TVs, of course, obviously, if they can't make it up there. But it's a huge game nonetheless. Then the following week, though, Texas Tech coming to Morgantown. I'm sorry. Yeah, Texas Tech coming to Morgantown. That's right. That is a home game. So Texas Tech, they've had Neil Brown's number. I absolutely have had Neil Brown's number. Neil Brown's never beat him, never even come close to beating Texas Tech. So what do you think this year?
Well, it's tough to say because, they lost to Wyoming, and Wyoming in the past has beaten some Power 5 teams that maybe weren't so bad. They just kind of just a different environment, and it's just they just had a poor showing. I don't know why teams travel to Wyoming to start the season. All that just doesn't make sense to me. So I don't think that it's I don't think that it's anything. I don't know if they're a bad team or not. I'd like to see them play tonight to really judge if they're capable of us being able to beat them.
Yeah. So I think that Joey McGuire is an absolute fantastic coach. I really do. And he's a great recruiter down there, and Texas has a lot of talent to recruit from. So Texas Tech's getting a lot of good recruits and stuff. But this year does not. This doesn't seem like Texas Tech really has it going like I figured they would. So that's gonna be a good game. And another one of those. All right, so we talked about this. We talked about if the West Virginia loses tonight, Neil Brown should be fired before the night's over. Next week, same thing. Pittsburgh, he loses the backyard brawl. By gosh, everybody in West Virginia is going to be hollering for him to be fired. And then the following, even if he beats Pittsburgh and beats Duquesne, if we lose Texas Tech again, that's liable to cost him his job. I mean, to never beat Texas Tech. I'm not saying it will cost him his job. I'm saying it could, and especially if he loses the backyard brawl. Two losses back to back is done. That's all there is to it. So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I wouldn't see like I don't know if we lost to Texas Tech. I don't know if he would get fired there. I think we would play TCU and then Houston, right?
Let me think. Yeah. TCU. Right, yeah, TCU and then Houston. Yeah. We
So
have a
he,
bye week after TCU.
so he would have a chance to kind of redeem himself, especially after if he was able to, beat Duquesne, beat Pitt. So that'd be 2-1, and then if he lost to Texas Tech, it'd be 2-2. So he'd have a chance to kind of redeem himself, but it would make him on thin ice. And that Dana, if you lose to Dana,
That's going to be the end of it.
especially
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah, there's no way you can go to Houston and lose to Dana and save face if you're Neil Brown. If you ask me, that to me is as big a game, if not bigger game than the backyard brawl. And the backyard brawl is a huge game because it's a rivalry game. We hate Pitt, but you know what? I don't know how a lot of other fans look at it, but I look at the Houston game as a huge game that we have to win because I really can't stand Dana Holgerson. And you know what? Dana Holgerson, he might have come to Morgantown and had some winning seasons and done a pretty good job as far as the win totals and stuff. Horrible at recruiting, left his program in a mess with absolutely nobody in the 2019 roster. Neil Brown's had to build from the start since the time he showed up at the program. So I have no love lost for Dana Holgerson whatsoever, and I would hope West Virginia can go to Houston and take care of business there. Oklahoma State after that. And Oklahoma State's coming to Morgantown. And then, hey, same way that Texas Tech has had Neil Brown's number, Neil Brown's kind of had Oklahoma State's number. So, what do you see there?
That's going to be. Did you say that's on the road?
No, that's at home.
That's at home. Well, yeah. I think that we do pretty well at home, even with Neil Brown. I think that on the road is those games that really cause trouble for us. So I think that's probably a win, especially knowing that Oklahoma State lost like basically everybody.
Yeah.
From last year. Now, did they play last week?
I don't think they did.
I can't recall. Yeah,
I know they played today, but they didn't play last week. I don't believe.
Oh, so who do they play today?
Let me look down through here and see exactly who it is, and I'll tell you. It doesn't have that game listed. This is only top 25 I've got up here.
So
yeah.
You gotta change it.
Yeah. So I would have to find that. I'm not sure who Oklahoma State plays, but anyway, but we won't talk no more about the future of West Virginia. Obviously, this is a Duquesne pregame show. I just wanted to get your opinion because I've never had you on a show. So, Nick, thanks for coming on with us and stuff today. I mean, my God, NickDTV and I have been talking for 3 months, trying to do a show together, and he works all the time. He's always busy, and finally getting to come on a show with me here today. So, now, Duquesne, like I was saying, 19 years as a football head coach and winning a lot of championships. Don't be surprised if Duquesne keeps this thing close first half to nobody. I mean, seriously, don't be surprised. And don't be surprised if West Virginia opens it up and it's 21-0 at halftime. But I'm just saying, if it's 10-7 at halftime, don't get too scared. Don't get too worried. Duquesne's a pretty decent football team. probably pretty close to James Madison. So you know these teams can hang with the bigger teams for a time. They can't hang with them forever, but they can hang with them for a time. And West Virginia's depth is not the greatest either. So we got more depth than Duquesne, obviously, but still, our depth is nothing compared to Alabama or Tennessee or Ohio State, Georgia. So
Yeah, I mean, I think the atmosphere is now going to be too big for them, and I think this coach is. I'm sure he has a couple tricks up his sleeve. They're used to playing these big teams. They know that they're probably not going to win, but they can come out and have a fight on their hands. And also, let's not forget that it's a regional game. I'm sure a lot of these guys, didn't get the recruit to West Virginia, didn't get a recruit to Pittsburgh, didn't get these high, top schools, these Power Five offers. So like they have a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. And then on top of that, they have a few skill guys that actually came from the Division One level, FBS level rather, and even a couple from the Power Five. So they're going to be ready to go, no
yeah, I
doubt.
mean, if you think about it, if you think about teams playing with chips on their shoulder, just think back to West Virginia, Oklahoma in 2007 or 2008 PS Bowl, or think about the 2011 Orange Bowl in West Virginia all over Clemson. We had a chip on our shoulder. Went into those games as underdogs. I mean, a chip on our shoulder. Now, mind you, it's a lot different than Duquesne coming into Morgantown. But at the same time, a team with a chip on their shoulder, they're going to play above their skill level. Bottom line, every player is because they're out to prove something. So the defensive backs, they're going to go after those interceptions. They're going to go after a turnover. They're going to go after stripping that ball. So is the defensive lineman. When we run the ball, they're going to try to get strips. Last week, though, I was really proud of this stat, and I've been talking about it all week. Not just West Virginia, Penn State stats too. Absolutely no turnovers in that game between either team, and only one penalty for Penn State and only 5 for West Virginia. And actually, I went back and watched that film a few times, and Penn State, let's just say they got some pretty good judgment calls there. That there was quite a few times there was holding in the backfield that we would have had a sack, and that didn't get called. But it was Happy Valley, so what do you expect? So
Yeah, actually, no, I was proud of the way this team came in there and handled that atmosphere, and had 0 false start. No, we had 1 procedural penalty, I believe. So that's pretty good. And it looked like Green handled the offense well, did what was expected of him, and kind of wasn't phased at all. And I didn't think he would be. I remember I saw some tweet. It was like a Penn State fan, and they were like, "Remember, we caused Michigan to have a false start." And I had a smart comment back. I was like, "Oh wow, I'm so scared. He caused Michigan to have a false start." I mean, kind of, but that came to be true. That we came in there and we weren't rattled and we weren't phased by it.
no, we had a really good game, and I thought it was a good game plan. Now the coaching in the fourth quarter, at the end of the third quarter and into the fourth quarter, the coaching had a lot to be desired. I don't think our players fell off any. I think we stayed with it. I think our coaching dropped off.
I think we tried to do too much, to be honest with you. And Neil Brown, I don't know about you, but I feel like he has a pattern of getting flustered and starts to start trying to do too much. When if you look back, we were pounding the football up the gut. I mean, those A gaps were ours for the taking. I mean, they were not stopping us up front.
Right.
And we got fancy. We kept trying to run outside of the tackles, and it just he had a desire to hit these long runs. I mean, these long downfield throws as well, and that's just not going to happen with this secondary. And I think that we should have stuck to the game plan and played a physical football and forced them to beat us. you know. And yes, they probably would have beat us, but then again, if you can punch them in the mouth, in that fourth quarter, you have a chance.
Yeah. I was, I think that I think Garrett Green played a good game last week against Penn State. Um, I know a lot of people, including me, have called him one read green, because he does one read and he runs. But it's looked like quite a few times he checked off, quite a few times, and still couldn't find open receiver. So he did do a couple of reads. I'm hoping to see a difference in that this week. I'm hoping to see Garrett Green come out and actually make, two or three, maybe even go to a third read. Hey, I'd like to see him do a check down every once in a while. Keep him back there in the pocket. Do not give him permission to run. I mean, I just tell him, don't run. I mean, if your pocket's collapsing, you have to, you understand. But stay back there in that pocket. Let's see what he can do throwing the ball. I think he needs a little bit more experience in the game with that.
Yeah.
He's,
Now, granted, we didn't have much receiver depth at that point. A couple of our guys weren't good to go. Really, the only guy we had was Devin Carter, and he had that one big play, and he had a couple other plays. And I saw an interesting thing, and he was Garrett Green was the only player on the team that had a PFF stat above 80 or something like that. If I'm like I said, if I'm not mistaken. So I think in that situation, and plus the pass rush was actually pretty poor in our hands. Not the pass rush, but the pass protection rather. They were coming after us, and I think Green, he didn't have any time to really sit back there. And when he did, the receivers also didn't have time to get open. So, he kind of had to do what he had to do. But like you said, I want to see him throw the ball significantly more and see what he can do.
yeah. So now, when we talk about our defense from last week, it wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. I mean, I really figured our secondary was going to collapse, and Penn State was going to score 30 points in the first half. I really figured that's how it was going to be because they've got a very good quarterback, obviously, and really good receivers all the way around. So I really figured, with our secondary being young, being kind of new to the program, and knowing that our secondary wasn't very good last year, that Penn State may score 30 on us in the first half, and it didn't happen. So I was really happy with our secondary. I'm not going to say I was happy with them. That they made a lot of mistakes, but I was impressed. I felt a little bit better after that game coming out of it, knowing that okay, now they got a game under their belt. Now maybe they can improve and know where they went wrong. Watching some game film, some true game film. So I like that.
Yeah. I mean, I sort of agree, but like sort of disagree as well. And the reason I say that is because I think that our lines of scrimmage, our defensive line actually played better than I thought, and our front seven as a whole played exceptional. And I thought
Oh yeah,
we were able to get pressure on Drew Alar, and I think he didn't have much time to really sit in that pocket and pick us apart. So that helped our secondary out and kind of made them look a lot better. But there were still a few blown coverages that we let them have a couple, and towards the end I think we got worn out. I think in the first half, especially the first half, we played pretty well in the secondary, but I think later on down the game we gave them a few that we probably shouldn't have.
yeah. I think when it was all said and done, the defensive line for West Virginia, there's some men. They done a really good job. I mean, I was sitting there thinking last week when we was playing Penn State, wow, just imagine if we had one of the Steele brothers in there or both of the Steele brothers in there. I mean, because that line is really, really good. So, I think I I can't get a good gauge on Jordan Leslie as a defensive coordinator. Honestly, because 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022, 2021 or 2020 was it 2021? We had a really good defense, but we had it wasn't just Jordan Leslie. It was 2020. It wasn't just Jordan Leslie. It was Jamel Adai as well. So I think that Jordan Leslie is a good defensive coordinator to a point, but he makes some critical errors in calls sometimes. I think so. I'm looking forward to today's game. Number one, Duquesne. They're not going to offer a lot as far as talent, but they are going to offer us quite a bit as far as formation because we're going to see some stuff out of Duquesne that we don't see out of other teams. Honestly, we'll see some different things. They're going to pull some trick plays. I mean, they've got nothing to lose, right? They have absolutely nothing to lose. So, how good can our defense hold up to some trick plays, some or maybe even some draw plays and stuff, some screen passes? I could see Duquesne doing a lot of screen passes today. So, so W Football says, did you see that there's now an official depth chart released for the Duquesne game? No, I did not see it. W Football going deep.
Now, one thing I do have to say, I pray to God that there is not going to be a kickoff return for a touchdown for Duquesne.
I thought our special teams was pretty good.
Well, the reason I say that is because last year, if you remember, we played Towson and we gave up. I think it was like the first play of the game, and they literally had a kickoff return for a touchdown. You remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I hope we don't have a blunder like that, something embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't see for that to happen, but you never know. I mean, you never know about these. This is a game that really we're watching a team play our team that we know nothing about. I have never watched a Duquesne football game, not one time in my life. I have never seen Duquesne take the field. So what are we getting here? And I think it's kind of a surprise to everybody what we're going to get from Duquesne. We watched the first quarter of the Georgia game today. Who is it Georgia's playing? I mean, they're playing a gosh, who was it? Let me see. Charleston Southern, right?
Ball State.
Oh, Ball State. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the first quarter and a half of that game, I think it was like 7. Or it was after the first quarter was 0-0, wasn't it? And then Georgia finally got on the scoreboard.
Yeah.
And Georgia's run away with a sense. And I think that comes from the shock and surprise of what some of these teams can do on both offense and defense to trip you up and make you get into a game plan. And I think that Georgia finally came into a game plan with them. That's something West Virginia's going to have to do today with Duquesne. We've never seen them. We've not faced them. And so we don't know what to we've faced them, but not for a very long time. And so we don't know what to expect out of Duquesne. So it's going to be kind of up in the air. And Duquesne could come out and shock us and hold the score to 0-0 or even be ahead after the first quarter. Just simply because of not knowing them. So W football fans come out a bit over an hour ago. No surprises for starters. Aaron named to X, Gallagher number 2 behind Fox, and Ray officially number 2 behind Carter. Johnson listed number 2 back despite not being expected to play. So a game like Duquesne, you kind of hope you see 55, 56, 57 different players play. But at the same time, you want a comfortable lead when that starts happening, right? We want to be ahead 21, 24 to nothing or something like that, or 21-3, 24-3, and start rotating some guys in. I'd love to see some of our depth get a lot of yards. Before we go any further, hold on just 1 second, Nick. I'm going to let everybody know. So Nick and I are going to be with you up until 6 o'clock. At that time, I'm going to end this stream. But Nick and I are going to remain in the back room. Now, we're going to watch the game together in the back room and sit and talk and just have some fun and just and everything. We'd like to invite you guys in there with us. So if you guys, the StreamYard link's in the chat. Copy and paste it. If you don't want to come in here right now, that's fine. Copy and paste it or save it or whatever. And hold on to that so that when this stream ends, hit that button, come back here in back room and join us and watch the game with us and hang out. So sorry, Nick, what was you gonna say?
Yeah, I was just going to pick your brain a little bit. What are you expecting overall from this game? Like, what do you want to see? Besides some backups or whatever. Like overall, like what would you like to see?
I want to see Garrett Green drop back and do 2 and sometimes 3 reads. I don't want him to run until he makes at least 3 reads. That's what I want to see. I want to see our running backs be able to get the edge and us set that edge. I want to see our line be able to set that edge, and the wide receivers blocking downfield. But then on top of that, I also want to see our wide receivers down the field and see who can get away, who can break free, who can get off of a block or whatever if we're getting jammed at the line, which a lot of times in these games against smaller teams, they'll jam them at the line just to try to have a chance to keep up with them. So they'll jam him. I figure Gallagher's in the game. He's probably going to get jammed. I remember back when Marshall had Randy Moss, and we played them first game of the year, their first game ever in Division One football, and and we jammed Randy Moss. And that's how we beat Marshall that year because they were really good. If everybody remembers, they went 11-1, and the only one loss they had was West Virginia. And Marshall was a very good team that year. Chad Pennington, quarterback. Was that, am I right? Chad Pennington was their quarterback, and Randy Moss was wide receiver. So what we seen there was us jamming him at the line. And I remember after like the first quarter, they took Randy Moss aside. Marshall did, and talked to him about him getting jammed at the line and how to get off of that. And then after that, he was able to get off of that jam and get downfield and started picking up some yards. And Marshall almost came back and beat West Virginia. So I want to see that today. I want to see how we're going to handle possibly, and I'm not saying they're going to jam us at the line, but if they do jam us at the line, I want to see our receivers get off that jam, get down the field. I want to see Garrett Green go through his progressions and make 3 reads before he runs the ball. And I want to say I wouldn't mind seeing some option game, a little bit of an option game with C.J. Donaldson, Johnson, and Garrett Green in the backfield there, running an option, sort of like we did during the Pat White days, but not so much as we did during Studstill or Major Harris days. I want to see the Major Harris, Darren Studstill days of running the option come back. We've got a good running quarterback now. We've got good running backs in the backfield. I want to see some really good option game out of this team. And I think that that might be the way of the future for West Virginia as it stands right now, is in the option game and Garrett Green being able to make more than 1 read down the field before he takes off running.
Okay. Yeah. I would definitely agree with you. Hey, sorry, my dog.
That's right.
I would definitely agree with you on receiver play, and I want to see somebody specifically besides Devin Carter step up, because I think Devin Carter is the real deal. Now I still want to see a little bit more from him. I want to see him have a few big plays, snatch the ball, have a couple jump balls, 50-50 balls. But besides him, I want to see a Traylon Ray. I mean, they talked all off season about him. I want to see it. I want to see something else from one of our other guys that we can to show that we're capable of throwing the ball downfield. Because if not, it's a long season if we cannot have somebody to throw the ball to.
Yeah, I agree. One more time, I see a lot of people just now coming in the stream. Thank you for being here, everybody in the chat. I'm going to give a shout out to the chat here real quick. I've only got a few people that have typed in. We've got a lot more in here than have typed. So if you guys would just type for me, I'd like to shout you out. So UC Fez, thanks for being here. LW, appreciate you being here. LW, a great friend of the show, great friend of mine. And he's got he's a good friend of Dana Holgerson, so don't hold that against him. Then we've got Earth Eater. Uh, Thanks for being here. WU football going deep. Appreciate you being here as well. Anybody else in the chat? I'd love to shout you out. Just chat in there and let us know you're here. And hey, West Virginia's going to get it done today, right? You know, we all expect that. It's how they're going to get it done. That's what we're looking at. We're trying to figure out how they're going to get it done and what we want to see. And I'd love to know what all y'all want to see out of West Virginia. Really, hey, that StreamYard link's right there in the stream. Come in here and let me know, or type it in the chat so I can read it and we can discuss it. What do you want to see today out of the West Virginia Mountaineers? What will make you feel better about going into the backyard brawl next week? If you see this or if you see that, just let me know. That's what I'd like to know from everybody in the chat, or come in the stream and let us know. So we're talking today to NickDTV. NickDTV is a West Virginia fan. Been trying to get him on the show now for a couple of months. His work schedule didn't work out too well. Glad he was able to join us today. So Nick, we got about 18 minutes left here and stuff. Let's talk a little bit. We talked about special teams. We talked about defense. We talked about offense. We have to hit the nail right on the head here and talk about coaching. How did you feel about coaching last week? Yeah, compared to what you want to see out of the coaches this week.
Well, look, we kind of touched on this. I thought initially the game plan, was a success. I thought they drew it up correctly. I think it's just, I think it's the attitude, and not from the players, but his attitude towards the game of football. His philosophy is not where it needs to be a successful head coach. And what I mean by that is during his press conferences coming up to the game, he talked about, he talked about, well, maybe if we can keep it close, then maybe in the fourth quarter we will have a chance to win. And yes, they're a lot better than us, blah, 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 and they're a lot better than us, and this and that. And he continued to tell himself, hold on.
I think your dog's mad. I think your dog's a little upset there.
Yeah. But he continued to tell us that, we were, just not good enough really to get that upset. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of rubs off, on the players. And I think you have to tell yourself, look, we're not the underdogs. They're disrespecting us. They don't think we're good enough. We're going to come in there. He should have said, we're going to come into Penn State and we're going to win this game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And he got to a point in the game, his in-game decisions were also a big issue, where it's, like I said, he gets nervous and he's like, oh man, they're getting up on us, and he gets scared. He gets in his own head, feels like he has to do too much. Like fourth down play, for example, you run Nico in there and do whatever kind of trick play. I don't even know what kind of trick play that was. Instead of just doing what worked, either doing a sneak or handing the ball off, and you try to get fancy because you don't think you're good enough. You don't believe in your players. You don't have belief that your players can do it. And that kind of rubs off on them.
Yeah, it felt like he was, I don't know. I don't want to say content. Like about halfway through the third quarter, it seemed like to me he got content in losing the game. Just
Correct.
didn't want to lose it by too much, and
Correct.
started getting like conservative with his play calling and trying to milk the clock a little bit too much instead of just going out there and playing football like we had played the whole daggone game.
Yeah. He was happy going into the second half, 14-7. That was a win for him, and that's all he needed.
Yeah, he gets off on these little moral victories.
Yes.
Bottom line. So
I think that kind of got to stop. And I was coming into the game, like in the offseason, I thought that we might see a little bit of an edge to him, especially when he started talking about the rankings and this and that. I thought that we might be able to see something, some kind of spark from him. Then he talked about, look, we're not easing into this. I'm going to push these guys. I thought that might have been a wake up call for him, but it's same old, same old.
So I'm going to bring some stats up for everyone here just to show you something here. So let's go back to Amos Iraway. Amos Iraway in career, 4,086 rushing yards, 5.2 average, 55 receiving yards for 300 or receptions for 375 yards, and 42 total touchdowns. Good career, right? Great career, Amos Iraway. Steve Slayton, let's look at this one. 3,923 rushing yards, 5.9 yards average, 65 receptions for 805 yards, and 55 total touchdowns. So even better. But if you got to get to the rushing leaders here, and Avon Coburn, 5,039. Now, Avon's a good friend of mine, and I've had him on the show here several times. And Pat White, 4,480, and then Noah Devine, 4,315. Amos Iraway, 4,086. Can C.J. Donaldson, if he stays at West Virginia, let's just say he stays his entire career at West Virginia, could he get by Avon Coburn and Pat White?
It's kind of hard to say because there's so much things that go into that. I think we sort of have a committee approach. And by the way, real quick, I didn't think that we had too much. Like I thought they gave him plenty of rushes in the Penn State game, but I do think going forward that we're going to have a lot more of a committee approach. And also, it's just it's hard nowadays. You don't see these guys stay in, for 4 or 5 years. Once they're able to, once they can get to the NFL, they leap for it a lot of times. So, we'll see going. And also, the confidence in the Neil Brown offense concerns me as well. That's, a big question mark.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that was something, and I don't know how you felt. Whenever we first got Neil Brown, one thing I did not think we would have to ever be worried about was our offense. I thought he's an offensive coordinator. That's what he did for a living. He's going to come in. We might have another Dana Holgorsen, only a much better recruiter than Dana Holgorsen, and somebody that's probably a better strategist than Dana Holgorsen. And I think I'm right. I think Neil Brown is a better recruiter. I think he is a better strategist. The problem is he's not a better offensive coordinator or the same offensive coordinator as Dana Holgorsen. He is way under the radar of that. So, here we are in week 2 of season 5 for Neil Brown, and wondering if we're going to be able to score 35, 40 points against Duquesne. It would never been a question during the Dana Holgorsen era. It would have never been a question during the Rich Rod era. Probably wouldn't have been a question during the Don Nehlen era. But it's a question we've got in the Neil Brown era. Can this team score 35, 40 points against a Duquesne team that they should be able to score that on in the first half?
Yeah. I as much as I don't like Dana Holgorsen, sometimes I pray, I wish that we could go back to those Dana Holgorsen offenses where it was like we didn't have a lot of times, like we didn't have to do anything. Even our third wide receivers were putting up, Jurassic numbers. You look at Tequil Shorts came in there as a freshman and had an amazing season. Like Kevin White bursted onto the scene. All these guys came out of nowhere and seemed to just light it up. It didn't matter who we had at what receiver. Now we'll have NFL talent at receiver, and they have a lackluster season, and it's not their fault. They just don't have the opportunity.
Yeah. So I've been saying that this team reminds me a lot of the team that when we played Alabama. Remember we played Alabama back on first game of the season, the Chick-fil-A kickoff. What was that, 2014 or 2015? 2015, wasn't it? We played Alabama in a Chick-fil-A kickoff.
Yeah, that was the 2014 season.
2014. Okay. Yeah, this team kind of reminds me a lot of that. So we came out, we looked good against Penn State. We held our own. We still lost by the point spread, I know. But really, that they wouldn't have got the point spread if they hadn't scored with 6 seconds to go in the game. So I ain't counting that last touchdown. We looked pretty good. We held our own, just like we did against Alabama back then. Does this team have that same moxie? Can they come out and put something together and get on a run like that team did? You know, ended up in a pretty good bowl game, pretty good season, pretty good finish in the Big 12, and wasn't expected to do much that year. You know, we had a new quarterback in Clint Trickett. We had Kevin White, who had just come into the program. So, and they showed it up. You know, I mean, they showed out there. So
Well, yeah,
can we and Mario Alford, remember, running that touchdown back, that kickoff back for a touchdown against Alabama.
and
Uh,
it is similar because the year before we went 4-8 and then came in there, and that year we ended up I think either 7-6 or 8-5. So I mean we had a at least a winning season. So hope for the same or if not better this year, but we'll
yeah.
see.
One more time for those in the chat, and I see Timothy Green in here now. I'm going to post the StreamYard link. If anybody would like to come in and talk to us, we've got just about 8 minutes left, and we're going to end the stream. But when this stream ends for you guys, me and Nick are going to stay right here in the back room and watch the game together and talk about it and have some fun. And we'd like to invite you guys in with us. Anybody in here that wants to come in and watch the game with us, hang out with us, copy and paste that StreamYard link. It'll be the same link. Just come in here and join us. And me and Nick will be watching the game together and hanging out and having some fun and talking a little bit of smack. So we invite you to come in with us. Well, we have talked offense, defense, special teams, coaching, and we talked a little about Jordan Leslie. Let me ask you this. How do you think Chad Scott did his first game as the offensive coordinator for West Virginia?
Well, I mean, it's hard to say because he's not the play caller. So, it's hard to really, kind of put a stamp on everything that he did. Now, I do say that thought the running back rotation, for what it's worth, was pretty good. I thought they gave CJ, a lot of time to kind of make his mark, and I think that was the goal going in, is because they wanted to bruise them, and he's a big bruiser, and I thought that they knew that he could handle the hits that were going to be taken on him, and I thought, like I said, the game plan seemed to be pretty smooth. Obviously, I'd like to see him score a little bit more, but I thought that he handled. I thought that It's hard it's hard to say because we don't. Penn State's such a good team, so what would we look like going up against a lesser team, and that's what we're going to find out tonight.
Right. I thought that he prepared the team well, the offense. Obviously it's on him to prepare them, and the offense did look prepared. Now, the play calling was a lot to be desired, especially halfway through the third quarter and most of the fourth quarter. The play calling was a lot to be desired by Neil Brown. That has nothing to do with Chad Scott. Looked like Chad Scott had this offense ready to play. I like Chad Scott. I really do. I like him a lot. I'm not saying that he was ready to be bumped up to offensive coordinator, but hey, if he's there and that's what you got to do, then do it. Because Chad Scott's a great coach. If anybody's ever watched Chad Scott mic'd up, you need to watch Chad Scott mic'd up because he has some intensity. And his intensity reminds me a lot, in a different way, of Bill Stewart. Bill Stewart had a lot of intensity. Chad Scott's a little bit better coach. So I think that that intensity with that coaching experience that Chad Scott has, I thought he prepared our offense really well.
Well, I think that we couldn't afford to lose him because, like, you see what he did with the running backs and recruiting. Mm-hmm. I mean, this guy is an amazing coach, at least an amazing assistant coach. So I think a part of the reason that we gave him the hire to offensive coordinator was not, I'm going to say no-show job, but it's not a no-show job. I think he's doing a lot more. But in a way, it's almost like a no-show job to be able to give him more money. You know what I mean? To give him more money and have an incentive to stay with the program. And like I said, I think he's getting to do a little bit more with the offense. And
Well, I think the biggest reason Chad Scott was offered the job is that in a roundabout way, Neil Brown's a dead man walking, and no offensive coordinator in their right mind is going to come to a university with a dead man walking on a hot seat head coach, right?
yeah,
You look at Clint Trickett at Marshall as the offensive coordinator. Should we have reached out and grabbed him? I think they tried to reach out and grab him, and he said no. I mean, why come to Western University and coach for Neil Brown when he's on the hot seat? And everybody in the country knows he's on the hot seat. So they didn't really have a choice to promote with him. But I thought that was a great move to put
yeah.
Chad Scott in there. I really did. I really like him as a coach.
And also, we don't have the quarterback that's going to sling the ball all over the field. We're a running team, so it kind of makes sense as well.
Yeah.
You know?
All right, so let's get down to the final score. Tell me what you think.
I think it's going to be something like 44-17. Think they're going to be able to score a couple early touchdowns, or maybe a couple late touchdowns, one or the other. But I think overall we're going to look pretty good, and we're going to be able to move the ball. And I think Neil Brown's not conservativeness in the beginning, but just overall, I think he's going to, take the horses off and, kind of ease into this win.
Okay. I'm going to say 45-7. I think West Virginia is capable of scoring a lot more than 45 points against Duquesne. I don't think Neil Brown's going to coach it to do that. So I think he'll coach it to be probably about 45. And I think our defense will hold Duquesne back, and they'll score some garbage points in the fourth quarter to give them a touchdown. And I think the final score will be 45-7. So,
all right, you heard it first.
There you've got our preview predictions. Like to know all y'all's. Like I said, StreamYard link is right there in the stream. We are going to sign out of the live stream. We're going to log off of this live stream and end this stream. But like I said, we're going to stay right here in the StreamYard. We're going to watch the game together, hang out, and just talk, drink a few beers. You guys are all invited to come in there with us. All right. I can take 8 of you. That's all I can take is 8. We can have 10 in here. So anybody that wants to join in, hit that StreamYard link right now and come on and join in with us. Nick, you got anything else for us, buddy?
Like I said, I'm hoping for a good game, and go Mountaineers.
Go Mountaineers. All right, guys. One reminder: don't forget Wolfman's Call every weekday, 4:00. Do not miss that show, Wolfman's Call. You're going to get some great guests. I mean, my goodness, he gets Don Nealon and Tavon Austin, Geno Smith. His list of guests is amazing because everybody knows Dale the Wolfman Wolfley. And so his show at 4:00 every day right here on this channel is a show that you do not want to miss. So tune in every day at 4, Monday through Friday, or Monday through Friday. That's right. He's going to do them on Fridays now too. And then after this game, don't forget to tune right back into this channel for the post game with the boys over at the Country Roads webcast. Jordan Cruz and all them guys, they do a great job over there at Country Roads webcast. Let's see, it's Jordan, Brandon, and Steven, I believe. So they do a great job right here on the Voice of College Football with their post-game shows as well. So Timothy Green says, final score 62-17. Let's go Mountaineers. Sounds good to me, Timothy. Come on in here and hang out with us, Timmy. Just hit the StreamYard link. It's really easy. I promise you guys, you hit that StreamYard link, you'll just have to type your name in. You can turn your camera off, and you don't never have to turn your camera on. You'll never have to have it on. Come on back here with us, guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Everyone have a great night. We'll see you right after the game for the post-game show.